Yo, we got Avengers Doomsday, new link, plot, details. I'm layered than always.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka All Fires. Now today we have some massive details for Avengers Doomsday coming from a trusted industry insider source, and one of them specifically,
I know everybody be excited for some new details, new plot links
with Steve Rogers and which timeline he's in. A huge question considering how much of the plot seems to hinge on the fact of him returning the Infinity Stones in Mjolnir and maybe being the very first reason all of these incursions started happening in the first place. Definitely at the point of contention for Doctor Doom and what might have happened with his backstory. However, this new update sort of clarifies everything, and we'll explain. We're breaking it down, the latest leaked details for Avengers Doomsday, but first, if you could grab the subscribe button. Thanks to everyone who's been subbing lately and helped grow the community, and if you like the content or like the channel and haven't already, I would just kindly invite you to do so. It is the #1 way to support us here at the channel, plus it'll enter you for all the giveaways. If you want, stick around at the end of the video, we get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so there are some major bombshell leaks for Avengers Doomsday in here, some of which support one of the theories we've had at the channel, another of which explains what's going on with Steve Rogers. Either way, if this stuff is in any way going to ruin your Doomsday experience, while we remind you to take everything with a grain of salt,
I always take everything with a grain of salt. I don't believe none of what y'all saying.
These are the same guys who
I like to see what they saying though.
Scoop game for 2 years.
The
same guys who nailed Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doctor Doom and broke all that stuff about the Spider-Man movies. Again, no scoopers gotten everything right, but these guys' track record is proven at this point. So if this is in any way going to ruin your Doomsday experience, only you know if you're susceptible to that kind of thing. I am mad at you. Now's the time to back out. Otherwise, let's dive into what they said breaking late last night about Avengers Doomsday. Okay, so it starts with John Roca talking about his source and 2 specific details he was told. The first of which relates to an update from days ago coming from Daniel RPK, basically saying the exact same thing, that Doom is going to have a group of witches and sorcerers working for him in the film. Now, the reason that we speculated days ago and are going to do the same right now, that this is probably the Black Swans, is that's drawn directly from Jonathan Hickman's writing and one of the groups of disciples that Dr. Doom had dealing with the incursions. We've also speculated that Clea herself may be a part of that order, and when we last saw Clea recruiting Doctor Strange to quote-unquote go solve an incursion that she claimed he started, he may already be working for Doctor Doom by the time we see Doctor Strange again. He hasn't been confirmed for Avengers Doomsday, but we know again from the 2015 Jonathan Hickman run that he will be Doom's sheriff and already sided with him. So there's a good chance that an alliance between Doom and Clea, or Doom and Strange at this point, has already taken place, and that will just be one more hero or disciple of his to help them convince the other heroes to join his side. Speaking of which, the next detail he was told is that Steve is picked up by Doom and the Fantastic Four, taking him on their ship in order to have the heroes of the 616 trust him. So we've been speculating here at the channel that Tony showing up really wouldn't persuade Bucky, who's alongside Yelena leading the new Avengers, or Sam Wilson, who's leading his Avengers, to side with him. Tony and those 2 characters were really not in good standing, and there was no chance for them to reconcile during the snap in the blip. You can just imagine that scene where Bucky and Sam are basically looking at each other, then looking back at Doctor Doom, who looks like Tony Stark, and that, if anything, would probably make them not believe him and not trust him because of, well, their history with a character that looks like that. However, the character that would make them capitulate and immediately fall in line with whatever Doom's plan he was trying to recruit them for was, is if he showed up with Steve Rogers by his side. And that's why we've said it's so important that he looks like Tony, because of the timing of this. Tony has just given his life the ultimate sacrifice in order to defeat Thanos and save Earth 616. Now all of a sudden, and not too long later, say 4 or 5 years, another character that looks just like him will be showing up and asking for his help. And as I've also speculated over the months while we've been forming this theory, who they're going for will probably be Loki. And in Steve's mind, he won't have seen the arc that Loki has taken through season 2 or what's happened with that character since he stole the Tesseract. No, the last memory he would have of Loki is Loki becoming him, mocking him, and then escaping with the Tesseract. Now, obviously, because of a lot of story points and imagery that have already existed for over a decade now with Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, we know that Doctor Doom will most likely sit on the throne that Loki's at now, and that probably means that he's defeated Loki and taken his power. there's already canonical precedent for witches to be able to steal each other's power, and Loki spent centuries honing his own power in order to travel up and down the time stream, stop time, and then sit at the center of the multiverse. Oh, not to mention he's a god in the first place. Doom needs that power to become God Emperor Doom.
Yeah, I was saying,
Doom to sit on that throne. That's why he's recruiting all of these heroes, because going against Loki will be no small task. We see how powerful Loki is. And that's why there could be yet another divide amongst the Avengers when it's Thor who's trying to protect Loki and convince everyone that Doom's the real villain, but the rest of the heroes have already sided with Doom and won't realize it's the case until much too late. Obviously, the pitch that Dr. Doom is going to come with for his plan is going to be a lot more complicated or layered than simply, hey, I want to be God Emperor Doom and create battle worlds. He's going to try to convince the other heroes it's all in the pursuit of stopping these incursions and saving these worlds, but we'll all know that it's Dr. Doom, and he's certainly not on anybody's side but his own. Okay, now one other thing worth mentioning about these two details before we move on is some early plot leaks actually said that Dr. Doom was aboard the ship alongside the Fantastic Four, that in the aftermath of the post-credit scene we find out he's not actually there to kidnap Franklin Richards at all. He's there to try to convince the Fantastic Four to work with him, and when that same Fantastic Four ship shows up in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, and where we think now lands somewhere outside of Wakanda or in an ocean bed that was the remnants of the ocean that the Talokan used to actually live in, that's why they're in the middle of what looks like a desert, Dr. Doom may already be working with the Fantastic Four. In fact, some people have speculated he was CGI removed from some of these scenes in the trailer already.
Yeah, I think so too, though. I think so too, but I don't know.
And while I definitely think there's some CGI doctoring going on to remove certain details, I'm not sure if he was in any of these scenes per se.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I will say,
I think so, but I don't think so.
Is one detail that never seemed to make sense that's now been debunked, again, if these plot points are true, is that it never made sense for Franklin Richards to be kidnapped by Dr. Doom in the post-credit scene of the Fantastic Four, because we've been hearing pretty much since day one that Dr. Doom is going to present himself as an ally to multiple heroes. If he kidnaps the Fantastic Four's son and the Fantastic Four is now confirmed to be coming to the 616, you're pretty much going to know that he's a villain and kidnapped a kid. There's no way he's going to be able to present himself
That's
in
what I
a way
was saying,
that's going to be able to manipulate others. So this, to me, makes a lot more sense for the Dr. Doom we've heard and the storyline we've been believing and sort of speculating at for a while, because, again, he's not going to tell everybody right off the bat that he's a supervillain. He's not going to kidnap the Fantastic Four's son and then try to work with them and convince other heroes to join his side. Now, this last plot point coming from Jeff Snyder during this same conversation is nuts. It places Steve Rogers in the 828. Apparently, there was an anonymous source telling him that Steve is in fact in the Fantastic Four universe, 828, because the branch timeline he created is actually pruned. Now, it's implied to be because of Loki, but it doesn't really explain whether it's Loki or the TVA as a whole. But what I will say is, since we've been following Loki, and since he absconded with the Tesseract and is now sitting at the center of the multiverse, we haven't seen him interact with Steve yet. However, there have been rumors about the very first scene of Avengers Doomsday, or one of the opening scenes in Act 1, being about Loki approaching Steve Rogers, saying he needs his help, and recruiting him either to the TVA or the Multiverse Avengers. Now, other than it being a retro-futuristic world that Steve Rogers may feel more at home at, it doesn't really explain why he would end up in the 828 specifically. However, if we go back to rumors almost 2 years old at this point, in early 2024, late 2023, there was speculation and talk of Chris Evans having a surprise cameo in the post-credit scenes for the Fantastic Four. Now, obviously, that never came to pass, and it was a little weird because we had just seen him as Johnny Storm in Deadpool and Wolverine, and so you can forgive the speculation we had at the channel that this may be a Council of Reeds or a multiversal Fantastic Four thing, where the 828 Fantastic Four meet the original Fantastic Four, because we just saw Johnny Storm. Now, obviously, that cameo never happened, and the post-credit scene we got was Dr. Doom underneath the cloak. Was famously some quote-unquote secret character that the crew tried to hide underneath a jacket. There's some speculation they may have been playing around at the time, or maybe it was Chris Evans, although the proportions and height of that person probably don't match. Either way, the truth is, Steve being a part of the 828 universe would explain this rumor to a T, and why there may have been some initial plan by Marvel Studios to introduce him there. Now, you can see why they went away from that. they wanted the excitement of introducing Steve Rogers to be a part of one of these first preview trailers. They didn't even include him in the casting announcement. They knew Chris Evans coming back was something that they wanted to save in their back pocket, and so for that very same reason, they may have said, let's now preempt this 2 years early from Avengers Doomsday and put it out during the summer of 2024 that Steve Rogers is back. Fantastic Four is going to do the same at the box office, whether they include that or not, and the Hooded Doom tease probably worked just as well, considering it is our first official look at him in canon in the MCU, although we can't see anything but the cloak and the hood. Either way, I think this plot leak or these details, while coming from trusted industry insiders, are also coming from their sources, and on a believability scale for what makes sense and what doesn't, these definitely fall in line with a film that's starting to take a lot clearer picture. I think there's a real tendency here to see Marvel basically getting back to some of these nostalgia characters, focusing on Chris Evans, focusing on Thor during the preview trailers to try to get that nostalgia going, all basically through the prism of Robert Downey Jr. now returning as the villain. But there are still so many heroes like the Guardians of the Galaxy and others that haven't been included much in the plot leaks or the way of the cast announcements or the trailers, Doctor Strange, etc. Where are these heroes? What are they doing? And what part are they going to play in Avengers Doomsday? And so while we have heard a lot of plot leaks and a lot of details, there are still so many question marks, and really it comes down to because we don't know anything about Doom. We thought that Thanos had a limited amount of run-up into Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, but Thanos had a ton compared to what Dr. Doom's had. And while I think this definitely presents a challenge in making Avengers Doomsday about all these heroes, about the incursions, staying in real time, rather than trying to explain all of the origin and backstory for Dr. Doom, they're going to have to at least do some of that, either in Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars, and that's where we might have a lot of the ultimate questions that we're asking right now answered that can't be answered until we get there. Speaking of which, and we have a whole week to talk about it, but I am very curious to see just how much they're going to be willing to show in the Avengers Doomsday first official trailer. I think there's an expectation for us to finally see Doom, especially since he was omitted from those 4 preview trailers. They know we're waiting for that, and because they're going to put one at the Super Bowl to make sure that 200 million plus people see it at the same time, what better opportunity than to do that first unveiling? Though we've seen glimpses of him through marketing last year at cons, it's not going to be the same as actually having him in footage and in action, which I'm obviously hoping that the trailer is full of. Let me know all your thoughts down below quickly. Let's get into the giveaway.
Man, they're going to do numbers, though.
All right, still giving away PS.
The movie going to do numbers regardless. Got people that are not. You know what I mean? It's going to do numbers, so. But, yeah, that new link, man. Let me know what y'all think about it, man. Let me know what y'all think about it.